So we've got a problem here, and like a lot of gardeners, it's ants. Now if we get a close up to this particular stump from the old mulberry tree that we had cut down, I'll give you a bit of an idea. Now that, you can see, so we've got one here, and carpenter ants, as the name suggests, feed on wood, dead wood, and they are, the ant family are nature's recyclers. I mean, this stump is pretty rotten, and they're living in here. If we go down to the base of it, they start coming out to find out what's going on, because they're protecting their nest. So carpenter ants, of the size that they are going to slowly but surely eat through this stump. It's going to take them a while, we're talking years, but eventually, as we look in there, it becomes sawdust. But we also have a really tiny ant here called a pavement ant. It isn't eating a tree stump, but it is eating one of our plants. So we need to rescue it. And let's go and have a look at that. Okay, so the plant in question is this, the remains of the mint. We've got one here that is absolutely decimated, and we've got another one there that's going the same way. And I need to rescue this. If we get a close up down on the ground, it's a very powdery residue of soil. I've moved this plant across, and they will bury themselves down into the ground, dig tunnels to build their nests. But when they get into a pot like this, you can see all of this sandy soil that's come to the top where they've been digging down, pulling the soil up. There's some more here. It's a telltale sign how fine that is. It's exactly the same when you have some paving stones on your patio. Between the cracks you start to see the sand between the bricks. These guys just push it all up. Now in the case of a patio that's fine, but in here this is full of roots of these mint plants, and what's happened is their tunnels have created air pockets, if you like. That doesn't help your plant whatsoever. So that's not helping its life, it's killing it off slowly but surely. But the ants themselves will eat at the roots of the plant because they suck the sap out of the root, and that's what kills them. So what we've got to try and do is get this pot into this tub of water, because I need to soak it. Two reasons: one, to flush the ants out of this pot here, and also to try and rescue what mint I might have left in that container. Now I haven't disturbed this yet, but I know as soon as I do, these little critters are going to come out and go everywhere. I've got to get that in there. Aye, and that is heavy. So I've only got one shot at this. Hope it's going to fit. Let's have a look. Get him in. Right, it's in, but I've got to get that full of water. So I'm going to put the hose on, get some more on it. I'm doing two things. I want the ants out of that soil, but I need to loosen the soil. Now the idea of this is I'm going to be moving it away from the infected area. So I've got a second one there I need to get out. And I want to tip this out, but in an area away from the garden. Right, this is too heavy to lift out. Maybe I should have thought about that. So I'm just going to drag it down the path. Okay, I'm not sure if this is the safest place, but it's going to be all right. There's nothing here that's going to get damaged. So I'm just literally going to tip this out, and see what we got. Ideally, I'd like the whole of the plant and the soil to come out of the pot, but let's see what happens. There she goes. I'm not wasting the water because this area needs a lot of... Oh, I've got a snail. You can go in there. So we can see the ants are moving. Now the idea is I want to tip this out, completely out of the pot. So, like I say, I know I'm going to lose a bit of the stems on here, but it won't. If I can rescue the plant, then great. It seems like it's coming out. Right, so we've got all kinds of things going on here. Look at that larvae in there. But there's an awful lot of ants throughout there, as you can see. But also the roots. We come around this side. So these guys are just basically going to keep chewing away, sucking the sap out of these roots. Which is why the leaves on the top look pretty upset. Okay, so we've got this out of the pot. And looking at the roots, they don't look too bad. It's the top growth that's suffering. But obviously I need to get these ants out of this plant. And so the only way I'm going to do that is this. Break him open. Now the interesting thing is if you look inside there, there's no roots. It's all gone around the outside of the pot. This looks quite brutal. Thing about mint, it grows anywhere. And it's a tough plant. So I'm going to leave that for the day, or maybe a couple of days, for the birds to come and have a bit of a feast. But I'm going to move it a bit out of the way. I'm going to keep my eye on it because I don't want the roots to dry out. The whole thing is full of these ants. Now I've got another problem here, and that's this light. Because I hit it with a piece of wood and I broke it. So we're waiting for the electrician to come and solve that issue, but I'll put that down there. This is the one I want to retrieve, shall we say. But I've got a metal bucket here. And also we've got a lot of lemon balm growing. There's a little bit in surrounding this bucket. So I want to keep that. But this bucket has nothing in it. It was just here to prop up the light. So let's take him out and reveal all the... Oh, look, we've got a few worms down there. That means the soil's good. A few beetles. So the lemon balm is growing there, so I'm just leaving that. There's no ants in here, so that's okay. So this is the next one to come out. So I'm just going to lift him. Now, if you look in there, you've got a leopard slug. Those are wood lice, so some people call them roly-polies. There's not much ant activity in the base. There's a bit, but hopefully we caught that just right. So with this one, if you kick the tub, then have a look. It doesn't seem to be any major activity in there. Feeling the weight of that, it could do with a good drink, so I'll get the hose on that, give that a really good soak. Now I've read somewhere that you can put cinnamon powder around the edge of your pot to act as a deterrent from the ants climbing up the side and getting in. Well, that's all well and good until you want to water your plant. So the cinnamon gets wet no good, got to reapply. So a great tip is to actually take whatever pot you got. So here we've got garlic chives and stand them in a dish of water. Now the ants can walk all the way around the edge of that as much as they like, but they're not going to get in the water to climb up there. They won't bother. So that's what this is sitting in that tray for. Fill that up with water, keep it full, and we won't have an issue. Now that's a really healthy looking mint. Quite powerful smell. So all the pots that we've got here, we'll put them in trays or lids, because that's going to stop any ants from trying to get into the plant. With regards to borax and sugar, it doesn't work in a situation like this. It works by having a bait box, if you like. So you make up two solutions. You soak a piece of bread in some solution of borax and icing sugar, and then you put that in your bait box, and then, as well as that, you also put a tray of the solution only. Now what happens is that the ant will drink the solution for itself, but then take an amount of that solid material that you've soaked, the bread for example, back to its nest to then feed the young. I'm guessing that's because the ant can't regurgitate the liquid, but the ants can feed off the solid piece of the bread. And that's how borax and sugar solutions tend to work. And that's the best way of doing it. Applying them directly to the plant doesn't really help. They're not interested in that. And ants at the end of the day are a bit like scavengers. They go out hunting for their things, they come back, and that's part of their life cycle. So ants in these containers or pots, and the only way to deal with it, if you suddenly find you've got an infestation like we have, is do what we've just done and hopefully recover the plant. But if you've got them like this, get them in a tray and fill the tray with water. It'll stop the ants coming through and trashing them. Okay, so it's a couple of days later and I'm looking into the bucket and I can still see a lot of activity with the ants running around on the top there. And what I want to do now is to retrieve some of these roots out of here, because I need to rescue this plant. So I'm on my own today, so let's give it a go, see what happens. I've got to do it one-handed. So that's one piece. Drop him in its tray. There's quite a bit here. I don't know if I'm going to need all this. There's quite a few ants in there because they're climbing up my hand. And if you look back in the bucket, you can see a lot of the eggs that have come out of these roots. I don't really want soil in this, so I want to try and get as much out of that as I can. There's a lot there. Okay, I think we got enough. Got a fair bit there. This I shall not waste it. I'll tip it out by the acacias, and then the birds will get an extra snack. So here's our tray of mint. Let's get him on the table in the greenhouse and start sorting it all out, because it doesn't look particularly good. Okay, now the thing is that I've never really had to deal with this before, so I'm looking for a container that I put all my bits and pieces in, like if I'm sieving compost, you know, that kind of thing. That all goes in there. Now, when we're looking at this mint, so the first thing to notice is we've got a lot of this stuff. Now that's black. Let's get a close-up of that. Looking at this root and how black it is, if you look at where I've just cut it, it's not looking very green or healthy, so to speak. There's still a little bit of life left in this, if you like. Life left in this. But I'm not going to get any growth out of that, because the ants have basically sucked out all the sap and knackered it. Can't think of a better way. Now, there's a lot of water in this, and so we need to try and, what I'm looking for are the white roots. I don't want the black, because the black is no good. So I'm just trying to tease them apart. Anything that looks a little bit dodgy, so like that's pretty good. Make a good earring out of that. But yeah, anything that looks a little, looks contaminated, I'm not going to be using it. So there's another piece there. So I'm going to carry on looking through. But I mean, if you look at this particular root here, I'm going to cut this because it's no good, but it gives you a bit of an indication. I've got the itches now because I think I'm covered in ants. So look at that. Now you've got black and white in there. But if we look closely, let's see, I'm flicking these ants off me. If we look closely at this, you can see there's the black and there's the white parts, but that end has gone black. And this is leading into another piece that still doesn't look so good. So I'm not going to use any of this. I'm going through this. I don't think you can. I mean, look how much they've gone through. So all they've done is they've sucked the sap. Got to be careful how you say that. Out of this plant. And if I look at this one here, in amongst it all, I've got some green growth on this. But halfway down, you can see that it's, just not right. So let me just crack on with this. I'll show you what I'm going to do with it all. I'm teasing out anything that I can, rescue. But I've got to say, the majority of this has pretty much had it. I mean, that's the damage that these things do. That is the main part of the nest. And okay, I've got some white bits in there, but I mean, crikey, look at it. It's been munched like crazy. Not munched, they've sucked the sap out of it. So all of that really, it's not worth me trying to rescue and spend my time doing this, because all these white roots that I've got too many black parts either side. So, I wouldn't say that they're viable. So we'll get this outside. Now, I have to say that I've got to admit, rather, not have to say, I've got to admit that I took my eye off the ball with this mint, because I didn't really notice that there was anything wrong. Until I looked at it one day and thought, that looks pretty dry. What's going on? We got a close inspection, as you saw at the beginning of the video. Then you see that dust, telltale sign. Kick the side of the pot, out they all pop. Then you know you've got a problem. So this is the situation we're in now. So I've got some of these, I was going to say cuttings, but they're not. Anyway, let's take these out of here. And what I want to do is trim them up to get whatever I can. Now, I don't want the green parts. I don't want these bits here. So we'll just get rid of that. Because I'm going to be laying them in this tray here. Just pop this one out in a minute. I've got some just compost from the compost pile in the garden, so it's homemade. I haven't sieved any of this at the bottom because these roots, they're pretty wet, obviously, where they've been sitting in that bucket for the last few hours. So all I want to do is just drop these into this. No water, nothing, because there's plenty of water on this already. So I just want to, if you see that, God, it looks ugly, doesn't it? So the green, I'm not going to do anything with it because, now look, you see, if you look at this, that's black there. So I don't want any of that. But there's quite a few decent sprouting roots coming across that bit there. Now, when you take a cutting of anything, how many of you use rooting powder? I've tried it in the past and it's kind of worked okay. So I've got a bit of a theory. I'm going to get rid of this and I'll show you what my theory is. Now in my hand here I've got some organic rooting powder. At the bottom it says growth supplement. Now, have you ever used this stuff? I've used it a few times and it's been okay. Trial and error really, to be honest with you. You're supposed to dip your root you're cutting into the powder, pop it in your pot and away you go. It helps it get going. Well, what I'm going to do with this is take a pinch of it and sprinkle it very finely on these roots here. My logic is the same as dipping your root or your cutting into this and getting it in the pot. So that's there. Now, let me know if you think that's going to work. Next job is just to lightly cover this. Now this compost is fairly dry. And my idea behind that is that I want to try and draw out any of the moisture that was on these roots. I haven't been sat in a bucket of water for quite a few hours now, so we'll just get that covered. There's not a load in there, but there's just enough. So I've got my roots in this tray here, very dry compost, and all I want to do now is just give this a little mist of water across the top. That's all. Nothing going crazy, just a little bit. That's it. That's all I need to do. I'm going to obviously keep my eye on that over the next few days because I want, like I say, I want the compost at the base to draw out any of that excess moisture that we've got in there, and then I've sprayed that on the top just to try and get a little bit of humidity going. And obviously I'll check it every day just to see how we're getting on, a bit like an ICU unit in your local hospital. So I will put this on the floor along with everything else that we've got going. And it reminds me that I've got quite a few transplants to get out into the garden. Well, is that going to work? Who knows? If you've got any other suggestions about how you might deal with your ants, then do let me know. And in particular, if you ever use borax, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I try not to use it if I don't have to. I'm relying on all the woodpeckers and the other birds that we've got here. But this is the biggest problem we've had with ants this year. We obviously see them in the past. So, will it work? Stay tuned to find out. But for now, take care, and I'll catch you next time. I'm going to go and get these ants off me. Have I got any, or is it just me?